Hi and welcome back, hopefully, to Hungry Eli. So today we're going down the sweet route. We're making a dessert. The two contenders are this shop-bought sort of millionaire shortcake pie mini dessert kind of thing. I'm not going to say where I bought it until they sponsor me, which I think we can improve on with a dessert called Eli's Pie. Ingredients are not simple, but hopefully easy to get. So some dark chocolate, double cream, milk, which is still in the fridge, some hazelnuts, some vanilla, some rum. So don't worry, nobody panic. Eli's not having any of this cake. Some eggs, some caster sugar, and that is basically it. Everything listed as usual in the description. And let's get going. Alright, so we're going to be starting with the base. As a disclaimer, because we're going to have to work pretty quickly in case you're sort of cooking this live, to make sure nothing goes wrong and you waste your nuts and the sugar. Basically how we're going to do this is we're going to melt down the caster sugar on medium heat. And as we get close to this sort of caramel color that we're looking for and close to having no lumps, we want to turn down the heat very, very, very low, throw in the nuts, coat the nuts very quickly, turn the caramel off, and then have a piece of parchment paper ready, or a silicone mat if you're more professional than me. I don't have one. Throw it on there, leave it to cool, and then come back to that later. Put the caster sugar in on medium heat. Make sure that's all sort of very even. So on this, you're going to want to use one of these bad boys, just so you get to the bottom of the pot itself and don't have any sort of crusty caramel. Don't use a wooden spoon where you can't really feel it. This allows you to basically feel exactly where you need to stir and scrape all of it so there's no burnt bits. Alright, so now that that's done and cooling on the side, which hopefully you got through without breaking a spatula like me, which I'll be requesting a refund for, we're going to move on to the cake itself. So we're going to start with melting the chocolate in a bain-marie, which is essentially a hot tub for chocolate. We need a pot with a little bit of water, enough to fill, I'd say, like a quarter of the pot, sorry. And make sure that your bowl sits nice and firmly on top and doesn't sit actually at the bottom, so there needs to be a gap in between. Alright, so whilst the chocolate's chilling in the hot tub, we're going to mix the rest of the ingredients, which is 200 milliliters of cream that we're separately going to soft whip, which just basically means that it's not fully stiff. 1 shot of espresso, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, 4 eggs, which we're separately going to gently whip as well, 1 tablespoon of rum, and that is it. So let's start with the eggs. Okay, so now that the chocolate's melted, we're going to leave it to cool down a tiny bit. We do have the 3 mixtures, so the cream, the other bits, and the chocolate. So whilst that just cools very slightly, we're going to go down to some fruit anger management. So let's make sure we don't take too long. I'm going to be quite efficient about this so that the chocolate doesn't harden too much. But what I do is I like to put it in a Ziploc bag. So break it into bigger pieces. So like this, we put everything in a bag, we seal it, shut so that stuff doesn't fly everywhere. And then grab anything that could help you defend yourself if somebody broke into your house, i.e. a pan, whether it's a rolling pin, if you want to use your frying pan, your kettle, probably not your kettle, you'd probably break it, but anything heavy enough to do some damage is what we're going to use to break this down. My weapon of choice is going to be this little pot. So you might want to add a layer in between of the kitchen towel. We use one of Eli's bibs, and then just go for it.
Ready? Fight! Yes, boom! Yes, boom!
Right, so now that we've got this into small enough pieces for the blender and feeling nice and relaxed, we're just going to make sure that this doesn't go too cold and harden. Mix those three elements together, and then we'll go back to blending this into a powder. Alright, so now that the mixture's done, we can go back to the base. I don't have enough space to film myself blending. It's probably pretty boring to add into a video anyway. So I'll revert back once blended and show you what the consistency should look like. Alright, so that's all blended now, which hopefully, if you beat it down before, should have been pretty easy. Otherwise, you can always do it in 2 or 3 batches, but hopefully that shouldn't have been necessary. It should look like this, sort of like coarse, wet sand. Having a few little bits in it is great because that provides some texture to the cake whilst you eat it. And now we can go on to the layering of the cake and cooling it in the fridge for a little bit before we put the ganache on top. Almost done. Alright, so now that we've blitzed our base, we have our chocolate mix for the cake, and we have our grease tray. It's ready for assembly. So let's go. Alright, so the cake's been in the fridge for about 2 hours now. As you can see, it's nicely set. And now all we need to do is finish the ganache, for which we're going to heat up pre-measured 160, well, on my end anyway, not for you, but 160 mils of double cream and 40 mils of whole milk. So let's get that going on the stove. So we're going to put the cream and the milk mixture in there, clearly. Keep it on low heat, not like what I just did. And then chuck the chocolate in there. We basically just want to get it melted. Alright, so our cake is ready and uncovered, just so it's ready for the ganache, which we're just gonna let cool for a couple of minutes, just so the cake doesn't collapse. If you remember well, we've got quite a bit of cream in there that doesn't bode well with heat. So also at all times do store it in the fridge, don't leave it out in the open, especially if it's summer. But yeah, all we need to do is cover the cake in the ganache and then do the taste test and see what Eli thinks. Alright, so we've now covered the entire cake in ganache, which needs to cool a little bit. Ta-da! If you are planning on serving the entire cake, definitely give it some decoration. You obviously want to trim the edges once it's cooled down, but maybe you can use some of the leftover base or some fresh berries, and it'll look really beautiful. Hopefully you enjoy, and let's see what Eli thinks. Thank you very much for watching. Eli?
There you go. There you go. Oh, tough decision. Yeah! Say what?